Here we are, everyone, and welcome. The final set, no matter who wins, of CALLOUS Invitational 7, and very likely the final set ever in any CALLOUS Money Tour. Never say never, but very, very likely that is the case. And it's going to be a historic occasion one way or another, whether it is Baddummy on the bottom winning, the first player already from play-ins to ever make money in the tournament, would also be the first player, obviously, to ever win the tournament from play-ins, which is a remarkable achievement. And then C, who previously went by he, him, and then they, them, now wants to be addressed as she, her, openly trans, and therefore would be the first trans individual and first woman to win this tournament should C win the tournament here. We saw a set between these two players yesterday that was dominated by C, 3-0 over Rick, who at the time was in the winner's bracket. And now we're starting out immediately on turn one with some nonsense. Rick immediately crit by C Zapdos, and hopefully Rick has untilted from yesterday and hopefully has the mental fortitude to not tilt because of that. That's a disastrous turn one. And, I mean, best of 5 is a long, long set. There's a ton of room for things to happen, to outplay, to get your own hacks, whatever. You've got to put that kind of crap behind you and not let that destroy your mindset right out the gate. They're playing for a lot of money. The donation pool, and I assume, unless I happen to get one while I'm narrating this, the final prize pool for this is a whopping $3,518, I believe. Or sorry, $3,516. That means it is over $1,750 for the winner, and over $1,000 for second place, which is still a great chunk of change. But obviously, there's a big real-life difference, especially for those of us out there who maybe are students or don't have a solid full-time job, whatever the case may be. $750+ of real difference between first and second is a pretty significant amount of money, but still, like I said, over $1,000 for second, over $1,750 for first. $3,500+ total prize pool, by far the biggest we've ever had in CALLOUS Invitational. It was $2,600 something last year, so we've increased by almost $1,000, which is crazy. And the meta did go down there very relevantly. It boomed into a substitute, so with that, Rick largely caught himself back up in this game, and it's pretty much even now. So those hacks, out the window, forget about it. Got ourselves a close one already. And +1 Suicune is a huge threat here. It should outspeed the Tar and would always kill it with Surf. However, if it has Hydro Pump, obviously that would kill if it were to connect, but there is a chance, 80-20, that it misses, which would be a disaster for Rick. But C is certainly not playing in a way that represents that they have a great answer to this Tar. Yeah, just going to let the T-Tar die. Good answer to the Coon, rather. Hydro Pump was the play, so yeah, it could have missed, but it didn't. And this is not looking pretty. That Ice Beam's big too. And a freeze. The hacks reversing. Turn 1 hacks for C, but now Rick is getting hacks as well with a freeze. I don't know. This has turned very, very quickly. This is why you can't let dumb things tilt you. Yeah, turn 1 was some nonsense, but it has changed dramatically. And it's looking very much in Rick's favor now. Celebi going to thaw, though, crucially. Gets a BP off rather than a Giga Drain. Going to pass the love over to Jirachi, which is also immediately frozen. There you go. Easy game, easy life. Hydro Pump. Going to be a couple opportunities to thaw here. We'll survive another non-crit Hydro Pump. And, of course, misses are a thing that can happen here, such as that one. However, Rachi stays frozen. Hydro Pump PP also a factor, especially if it ends up pumping into Zapdos and it costs 2 PP. One of the reasons, along with the accuracy, to not like Hydro Pump is that it only has 8 PP to begin with, which against things with Protect, or Faster Sub, or whatever, Pressure, it matters. As it stands, however, Suicune is ravaging through C's team, and C is desperate here. Going to click Giga Drain, hope for a crit or something. Does not get it. Cannot deal with Off-Coon here. Going to have to outspeed with Zapdos and land a crit or a para. Or just be outsped and killed. Salament's the only thing standing, and looks like today is a completely different day from yesterday. Yesterday, C with the 3-0 dominant sweep over Rick. Today, Rick comes out fast and furious and takes game 1. I wanted to say that, but that game moved so fast. There was only 16 turns. I didn't really get a chance, but whatever happened yesterday really, truly doesn't matter. We've seen it in CALLOUS Invitational before, never mind however many other tournaments. We saw Cowboy Dan get up 2-0 against Linear in CI2 finals, and then go on to lose 3-2. Linear got up 2-0 on Dan and went on to lose 3-2. And then last year in the grand finals, it was the same situation. It was Solwind against HClat, with HClat in the upper bracket. Solwind won the first set handily, 3-1, really smacked them around. But then they came back to play, I think the next day, and it was a 3-0 favoring HClat, a total reversal from the day before. And that's kind of the point. Even though C dominated Rick yesterday, and she really did, she really, really smacked him around, it just doesn't mean anything today. And as of this moment, with Rick with the 1-0 lead, he's actually more likely, mathematically anyway, if we're assuming that these players are roughly equal, he's actually in a better position than C is to become the champion of CI7. So, like I said, have to just forget about yesterday, do your thing today. Rick obviously off to a good start with the help of 2 very relevant freezes. Hacksy game there, but C got the better hacks initially, but it turned around very quickly, and Rick got 2 huge freezes that both mattered. And that was a fast game. 16 turns, 1-0 series lead. You guys probably know, but it is a best of 5 yet again. 1-0 for Baddummy. And a little bit of a pause in between games. C might be really feeling the nerves and the pressure, given the title on the line, given the money on the line, given how poorly that just went. Very well may need a moment in between games. And certainly with the stakes on the line for this tournament, that is totally acceptable. Absolutely not a problem if they need a moment in between. I get it. It is a live narration, so as soon as Game 2 pops, I will click on it and we'll be in it together. Can't wait to see how it plays out. But one way or another, at the end of this, we will have a champion of CALLOUS Invitational 7 with a good amount of money, $1750 plus, going their way. Not a bad kicker in addition to the pixels and the title and the glory. Just gotta wait for Game 2. Not sure what the team was for Rick. That could have been the ABR CM spam or some variation of it. We really didn't get to see much. C, last time around, pretty much played all offense, and it worked. And went with it again this time. Very offensive team. We'll see if she switches it up and brings stall at any point. I would be surprised, not so much from Rick, because he likes that kind of thing, but if C were to bring like a 4-y team or something, I would truly be a little bit surprised. And here we are in Game 2. Players in the same positions. Baddummy, I'm Rick Isley on the bottom. Super Epic Ampharos, or C, on the top. Moltres on meta, obviously Moltres favored in this matchup. It could just be a Will-O-Wisp turn rather than Flamethrower, and it could tempt the meta if it has Lumberry to stay in, try to eat the Will-O-Wisp, and then click Rock Slide, but there's a lot of circumstantial nonsense there, and good thing meta didn't try to get cute. Overheat would have smacked it into next week. Instead, it is T-Tar eating the Overheat with the resistance, still takes about a third, and now Pursuit, if that's a thing, is actually relevant here. Moltres certainly is going to get out of the way. Maybe stays into Will-O-Wisp, but I don't know that I would do that. The T-Tar doesn't have lefties, so it probably has Lum, so that makes Will-O-Wisp or Toxic even less exciting. I'm getting out of the way here if I'm Baddummy, but we'll see how he wants to proceed. It is Swampert here, and it is a special Tar, as I suspected, but interestingly, didn't go for Pursuit. I thought the switch was obvious, and I thought Pursuit would have been good there, but C sees it differently. So now Swampert comes in. If it has Fire Blast, it could have HP Grass, so obviously need to be aware of that. Otherwise, pending HP Grass, Swampert obviously has the advantage in this matchup. Little bit of a pause, not clear who we're waiting for. There we go. The timer shows us that it is Baddummy waiting to make a decision. C's already locked in her move, but no, she's having second thoughts as well. Gonna double back to Skarm, and it turns out they both switch. We end up T-Tar on Skarm. T-Tar can have T-Wave, Fire Blast, Flamethrower, Taunt, that kind of thing. But gonna switch out anyway, and it's gonna be a 1-0 Spikes advantage, and that's gonna remain a 1-0 Spikes advantage after Taunt prevents Baddummy from getting his own lair down. 5 unrevealeds in this game between the players make that 4 as Baddummy shows a Jirachi, so he's only got 1 poke hidden in the back. T-Tar, we know, has Fire Blast here, and in comes Tar to try to eat exactly that. Does so successfully, and no unlucky burn for Rick either. Tar on Tar, one slightly healthier than the other. We don't know who's faster, however, because only one of them has leftovers, so we can't use that to judge speed. Here comes Meta, and Earthquake there works out just fine. Hits the Meta, had that come in, and obviously would have hit the Tar as well. Now it would have blanked on the Skarmory, but C didn't do that, so works out for Rick. Boom, however, is going to just make this a trade, so we've got ourselves a 5-5 with the 1-0 Spikes advantage still favoring C. And we'll see how they both want to proceed. Probably want to try to cover the Skarmory if you're Rick here, but it's very likely that the T-Tar comes in instead, which is the case. And here comes Swampert, which would be somewhat reasonable against either one. It can threaten either one somewhat with a water attack, less so Skarm, obviously. And here comes B. Surf there. Basically nothing. 14%. Not a big deal. It would only matter if it is a Celebi that has no means of recovery. I'm a big recover Celebi guy, but perhaps I'm just a boomer. These days, a lot of the younger crowd, which includes C, totally comfortable going non-recover Celebi. Overheat there is going to miss. It does have just 90% accuracy, which still gonna hit a lot, but didn't hit this time. Swampert would have resisted it, so it wouldn't have done a ton, but it would have been something. The miss there mildly relevant. In comes Skarm, in comes Pump. 46%. Nothing preventing a spike here, however, if Baddummy wants to finally get his lair down. And it doesn't appear like either player has brought a Rapid Spinner, though they both have one unrevealed in the back, so maybe one or both of them does have one. But so far, no way to remove the spike shown from either player. One lair a whack. Skarm is faster here. If Rick wants to get another lair down and or fling a Toxic at it on the way out, I think those are both fine plays. Of the two, I think I prefer the Toxic over the second layer of spikes, but don't even know if it has Toxic. That's just me as the commentator speculating here. I doubt he switches, though. It doesn't seem like Rick has a great switch into Swampert, so that's one of the reasons that I like Toxic better, because he doesn't really have a good Swampert switch. I think putting the meaningful pressure, the meaningful damage on it matters more than the second layer, in my opinion. For C, I would think the last. I mean, you never know with her, but on a standard team, which it very well may not be from C, you'd expect it to just be something like a Salamence or an Aerodactyl or some kind of aggressive cleaner. I don't think it's a spinner. I guess it could be like Starmie or something, but I don't know. I mean, Starmie would make sense as something you could CM pass to, so maybe it really is just that, but like also Mixed Men's, for example, would be also something you could CM pass to that would make a lot of sense. I hate the Protect. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. For me, it's definitely spikes or Toxic there. In my case, it would have been Toxic. Interesting that he doesn't Protect now, so I'm not sure what that line was, but doesn't manage to get a Toxic off and pop the Lum, nor does he manage to get a second layer of spikes down. Hopefully the difference between one layer and two, for Rick's sake, does not end up haunting him later in the game. C does take the lead with that Skarm knockout, though, and C, who is down a game, has the 5-4 advantage in this game. Interesting that Jirachi is going to come into a T-Tar that Rick knows has Fire Blast. What are we representing here? Are we going to sub and fish for misses? Are we going to CM up in his face? Are we saying we have HP fighting or some kind of nonsense? CM up in his face seems to be the plan. Okay. So CM makes the next Fire Blast do 49%. So if Rachi were to CM again, it would always survive the following Fire Blast if it's not a crit or burn. Of course, you run the risk of just being roared out or something along those lines, but if you've taken this line, I don't think you really have a choice at this point. I think you just have to roll with the punches here. If you're doing this, you've got to commit to it, so I think you CM again. Other thing is, I don't know what +1 attack other than HP Grass, and it is HP Grass, that the Celebi could have that would actually kill the T-Tar here. So, yep, Aerodactyl is one of the two pokes. Like I said, Aerodactyl or Mence, that I would assume that it would be for C. C, who has brought out lots of funky stuff throughout the entire tournament, has been very creative and has had a wide arsenal of Mons, 33 different Mons, including 14 non-OUs up to this point, has kept it pretty standard in these two, and I don't blame her for that. I mean, finals and a lot of money on the line. You don't want to get too cute, and you don't want to lose to a gimmick and then look back and say, man, if I had just brought something a little more standard, a little more normal, this could have gone differently. So there's some happy medium between C sticking to what got her here, sticking to what worked, versus not getting too cute and blowing it in the finals. Aerodactyl here obviously threatening Earthquake, but it's not as simple as that. If you Earthquake and Moltres comes in, for example, that's really not so good for SEA. Moltres getting a free attack, whether it's an Overheat, an HP Grass, a WoW, a Toxic, that's really not so great. C really doesn't have a great switch for that, so it's not as straightforward as just click Earthquake here. Might be obligated to click Earthquake here, but if Baddummy musters up the courage to go to Moltres, it ends up being Swampert. And it is Earthquake there with a crit, which matters. I don't hate the Swampert play there, because if C had gotten cute and gone for Rock Slide, then Swampert completely covers that. And if it is a non-crit Earthquake there, Swampert is fine as well. As it stands with that damage roll, which is a little bit funky, 57%, Swampert looks like it does have a good chance to live a follow-up Earthquake, but if it's a non-CB Arrow, which is a poke that C showed us yesterday that she likes, a double edge here with more base power than an Earthquake would be close. Would be quite the damage roll in this situation. And it's quite relevant whether the Swampert would live that or not. But Baddummy is not comfortable with it and backs off to Moltres. Gets the better end on a turn with a Bull Switch. Flamethrower leaves the Scarm at 1%, which is going to just result in the Drill Pack, not the end of the world, but that chip damage could matter later in the game potentially if Moltres needs to tank something. 28% less than it would have had with a more cooperative damage roll. But C lets it go, so presumably it's going to be a 1-1 spike game the whole way. We don't know the last poke for Baddummy, but I really don't think it's a Rapid Spinner based on how this game was played. Wonder if it's last poke Gengar for Baddummy. Could also be Metagross or Salamence or something along those lines. It is Rock Slide there, and it's not clear whether or not that would have killed the Purd. I think maybe not, but certainly at 23 it's going to be safe from a non-crit. And now we get to see if the arrow has the ability to switch it up or not. If it's not choice banded, then you clearly want to just click Double Edge or Earthquake here. But if you are stuck on Rock Slide, then I guess it's a switch to Celebi coming for SEA. Little bit of a pause. Very similar to the previous set, actually, where Game 1 last time was fast and furious, but Game 2 a bit slower and more deliberate. Now, granted, this Game 2 is not going to go nearly as long as the previous Game 2 that went 80-something turns, but not surprising that this one is a little tighter and a little slower. 4-4 game, and they're both taking a little bit of a pause here. Not clear why Mod Chat is not set. It should be. People should not be talking in the game, even if it's just to say D, whatever that means. And we wait. Like I said, I mean, if C has the ability to click something other than Rock Slide here, then this is a pretty damn straightforward play. But if C is locked on Rock Slide, then this is a little bit trickier. There's a world where C goes for the flinch here. Crit or flinch would kill the Swampert effectively. Let's just do a quick health check. Probably it's a Celebi switch, I would think, at 86%. Pretty safe. Yeah, I think that's the right play. It's definitely the safest play. And Celebi at half is totally fine here. Swampert does get some lefties back, which definitely matters so long as that Aerodactyl is alive. And we proceed from there. We've seen only Calm Mind from Celebi, which we know very clearly based on yesterday multiple times. We know that CM BP Celebi, very much a mon that C is feeling right now. And last mon Bliss is revealed. So we now know fully spinnerless game. And Toxic, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but I think this is all going to be baton passed away. If the Celebi does not have baton pass, then this is a good situation and a good last poke for Rick. But if it does have baton pass, then that changes things in a big way, and maybe that Toxic is not as big of a deal. Certainly, if I'm Rick, I would click soft-boiled here. I can see the argument if you think that the Celebi is about to baton pass out. I can see why you would Toxic here, potentially. I can also see fishing for a freeze if you're really worried about something at +2/+2, even though the Ice Beam damage without a crit would do like nothing because of the CM defensive boost. But I think the safe play for Rick is to click soft-boiled. Giga Drain. And Rick agrees. Back up to almost 100%. And that Celebi is set to die very soon with the Toxic doing more and more damage with each passing turn. Certainly if SEA has baton pass and she's been playing like she does not, now would be the time. Now would be the time. Both taking a little bit of a pause here. C might not have the set that she wants to have here, which is, of course, baton pass. And a little bit of timer being used. Do not blame either of them, like I said, given what's at stake. Down to 1 minute for C, who switches out, not baton passes out, so clearly does not have it. Seismic Toss at T-Tar there, which we know doesn't have lefties. Got a desperation, go for the flinch. Doesn't get that either, and Seismic Toss ends the day for T-Tar. All of a sudden, this is looking quite good for Rick, who's already up a game. And a 2-0 lead would be a wonderful place to be, but like I said, it is not guaranteed. We have seen it in this very tournament. CI2, linear curve, got up 2-0 on Cowboy Dan, and then lost 2-3 in the grand finals. So let's not count any chickens before they hatch. But it's looking pretty good for Baddummy, who was swept by C just yesterday, just 24 hours ago. Today is a new day, and this might be a 2-0 lead for Rick, coming all the way to a 2-0 grand finals advantage, potentially, from the play-ins. Difference between 1-1 and 2-0 is huge. 1-1, you just play a best of 3. Not a big deal. Still a lot of room for either one. You still have to lose twice in order to be eliminated. Not a big deal. Down 2-0, as we've discussed, the comeback absolutely can happen and has happened, but it's way, way, way harder, and the pressure is just massive. And C, who I know really struggles with anxiety, don't think wants to be in that position, down 2-0 and dealing with all that mental nonsense and all the pressure. She's very capable of making the comeback, but hey, there's a great hydro pump. Crit doesn't matter there, but that's a really good hydro pump. We do know that the Jirachi has HP Grasp, but still, I think Rick was anticipating an Earthquake or a Focus Punch there, which is why he went to Moltres, and that was a great snipe by C to go hydro pump. This game ain't over. And there's Psychic to kill the B, fair enough, 2-3 situation. But that hydro pump really was good. This is far from over now. All of a sudden, wait a minute. Aerodactyl with Earthquake's a real threat. Baddummy may have tossed it by going to Moltres there. Hard to call it a punt when it was such a good call out from C. But I think things have changed dramatically here. Blissey will survive an Earthquake if it doesn't crit, and I guess that's the plan. I guess you survive the EQ, you kill it with Ice Beam, and then you come down to Rachi on Swampert. Great double switch for Baddummy. We know that he's got HP Grass. What a tight late game. This is not over. And like I said, the difference between 1-1 and 2-0 is so huge in this situation. Critical hit HP Grass. Down that goes. Jirachi and Blissey against Arrow. Obviously, Earthquake is coming. Jirachi's not going to survive. The question is, will Blissey? The spike, very relevant. She's at 52%, but that's pre-spikes. It's got to be close. Is she bold or is she modest? She's at just 40%. If she survives, she will kill Arrow with Ice Beam. It's going to all be a damage roll here, and it is going to be close. She's at just 40%. Huge damage roll. Does not survive. And C brings us to a 1-1 tie as Rick in real life slams his keyboard, knowing how close he just was to a 2-0 lead. Had the damage roll cooperated there, or had he not given away the Moltres, he'd be looking at a 2-0 lead, but instead, it is a 1-1 series, and we are back clean and even, going to a best of 3 effectively to decide the CI7 champion. Just like the previous series, Game 2, very, very close. And the damage roll being calculated in my Discord server. Wow, and so Double Edge is 47 to 55%, but they did not calculate Earthquake. I believe the roll was favored there, but not necessarily guaranteed, but we also don't know. There we go, here's the Earthquake roll. So my Discord server is saying, and this is assuming it is a bold Blissey, which we don't know if it was, but if it is a 0 HP max defense bold Blissey, then the damage roll is 39 to 46%. So with the Blissey at 40, then obviously it was heavily, heavily favored for the Aerodactyl to kill the Blissey there, and it wasn't super lucky. There is a world where Blissey survives if this damage roll is correct, and like I said, that is all assuming that the Blissey is bold. If it's modest, then it was dead no matter what. But yeah, if it were bold, then there is a world where Blissey could have survived there, but it was still clearly favoring SEA in that position. Like I said, the huge thing there was giving up the Moltres, and I'm not going to call that a punt. I totally understand why Baddummy did that. I think that was just a really good play and a really good call-out from C, rather than a blatant fuck-up from Baddummy. If you want to just be results-based, then, yeah, I mean, obviously that ended up mattering, and obviously if Baddummy had a Moltres in this late game, it would be completely different. But I get why he made that play, and if C doesn't make that really good pump, that really good call-out, it would have worked, and Baddummy would probably win the game, and we'd be looking at 2-0 right now. So like I said, I really, even though that play is probably the one that Rick wants to have back, or probably the one that a spectator might look at and question, I really don't know that that was a throw. I really don't know that that was a punt. I think that was a good play that a lot of good players would have made, and it was a really, really good high-risk, high-reward call-out for C that happened to make the snipe. It was really well played. And that's why she's here in the finals, and that's why it's 1-1 right now, rather than 2-0. So no matter what, we are not going to be done with CALLOUS Invitational in this next game. No matter what, there will be at least 2 more games. Obviously, getting a 2-1 lead, better than falling behind 1-2. But, to the delight of the spectators, no matter what, we are going to play at least 2 more games. Hell, maybe even 3. Who doesn't want the grand finals to go all 5? There we go. A couple big gulps of the milk, and I'm good. I'm excited. I'm amped. Throat is ready. Just need them to begin. And like I said, not surprised and not giving them a hard time whatsoever. It's the grand effing finals, guys. They can take a little bit of time in between games. Who can blame them? Besides, C is strategically trying to Euro stall Baddummy. Later it gets for him, sleepier he gets. Been a long day, starts to fade at the keyboard. I see what C's doing, those dirty tactics. Try to get it past midnight, past 1 a.m. for Rick, who is British, for those of you who are unaware. All of a sudden, starts fading at the keyboard. Not as focused. Oh, I timed out. I guess I won. 1,700. All right. Now, it was a great game, too, as it was in the previous series. Of note, for those of you who are used to C bringing out the Slay Kings, the Shedinjas, the Rapidashes of the world, she's kept it pretty standard. Both games, we got them right here. She's kept it. These look pretty normal. All OU, all standard. Nothing too fancy pants. I mean, obviously you've got to know with C that at any time, any moment, she can bust out the nonsense. Just because she hasn't yet doesn't mean that she won't. She is not afraid at all with the tournament on the line to bust out the nonsense. It's definitely easier when you have a lead to take a chance to try to get cute. If you're up 2-0, maybe you're a little bit more inclined to go for style points or take a risk. But I'm going to give C the credit that she is able to bust out the nonsense even if she's down or if it's even. So if I'm Rick, anything goes. Be aware. And here we go for Game 3. 1 for Baddummy, 1 for Super Epic Ampharos. Tournament cannot end here, but a 2-1 lead where you want to be. Baddummy has been a big fan of the Zapdos lead throughout both of these best-of-5s, and going to go with it yet again. Going to baton pass to Meta against the lead Lax from C, who seemingly has brought a very aggressive team. It could be a Magdoll with Lax and Suicune. Normally, when you lead with Snorlax, it is not a Curse Rest Lax. It has things like Focus Punch or Boom. Might just be 4 attacks or Curse 3 attacks. Usually it's more on the aggressive side. It's a very aggressive team. But C, you never know, tends to mess with her leads. That critical hit, you know, it reminds me a lot of the Game 1 critical hit, but it is in reverse this time. It is Rick getting the luck rather than C. And that crit obviously matters, insta-deleting the +1 Suicune and putting C in the hole very early on in this game. So if you are a Baddummy fan, meaning if you're British, you got to like that turn. And understandably, both for composure and nerves and also figuring out what to do from here, C's going to take a moment. Been multiple relevant Zapdos crits in the game so far. 1 for C, 1 for Baddummy. In this moment, Baddummy obviously gonna be happy about that. And here comes Lax, which is an understandable response. That's something that largely should be safe from Zapdos. And Baddummy really going for the blowout play there. Clicks substitute and prays that C clicks Boom into it. That would have been a disaster. But C, with the discipline to not do that, is just going to click return. And there is a BP. And once again, I have no clue why people are talking in the game. They should not be. Someone should set mod chat, so that's not even possible. Thank you. Anyhow, Gengar comes in, blanking the return. And finally, this is going to prompt SEA out. Maybe it actually is a Magdoll all along. There's at least the mag part of it, but it could also still just be a physical or a mixed offense. It could also just be Meta Pert Titar, Meta Pert Salamence, something to that effect in the back. Yet to be determined. But Metagross is in fact a steel Pokemon. Who knew? So it is trapped by Magnet Pull. Obviously, if it is Earthquake here, Magneton doesn't give a shit that it trapped Metagross. It needs to get out of the way. Ooh, and it goes for Agility. Interesting. It doesn't have lefties either, so presumably this is a Jill Lum. Meteor Mash there, no choice but to take it. And now Dragon Dance, we'll see who's faster here. If it's 200 agility, then the Mence is going to be faster. If it's 222 agility, which obviously it was not, then the Meta's faster. But Earthquake comes down, also with a relevant critical hit. And now that's down. So there have been some crits that matter in this series. Meta may or may not have survived that, depending on EVs. That crit didn't necessarily matter. It totally depends. It might not have mattered. Depends on the EVs for both. If it's a bulky Mence, bulky Gross, it mattered. If it's an offensive Mence, offensive Gross, it didn't matter. The world may never know. But as it stands, 5-5. Ice Beam there, aimed at Salamence. He gets out of the way. We have a sandless game at the moment, so Lax is going to be quite difficult for what appears to be a special offense team for Baddummy. Shadow Ball also is going to get the Specs drop, which doesn't matter for the Lax particularly, but it could matter later for a follow-up poke, but there's another crit that really matters. Hydro Pump is going to delete Snorlax. There have been some relevant hacks in this one. It's the grand finals. You take them as you get them. I mean, Rick, while empathetic, can't feel too bad. You take them as you get them. But that mattered, obviously. Lax would have survived that always, if not for the crit. And once again, Rick with a clear advantage in this game. All right, Heracross going to be the answer. So we've got some kind of blue offense here. See if the Suicune or the Heracross is faster here. It's usually the Heracross, but on these really aggressive teams like the one that Baddummy has, it could be the Suicune. Gonna pull it back. And SD on the switch. Gotta be careful. Gaur might just boom here. I think that very well. Yeah, that might be what happens. And SEA anticipates that. Doesn't even have to think about it. Just insta goes to Mag and calls out the boom. And I don't know if that was a misplay for Rick. You got to do what you've got to do. The Heracross could have gotten scary, especially. I mean, what if it has Guts? What are you going to do? Will-O-Wisp it, activate Guts, and then get wrecked by it? I totally understand why he opted to boom there. Now, granted, if he had anticipated the Mag and he had double switched or fire punched or something, that would be even better. But in this case, I understand the boom. It was a little bit obvious. I said it before it happened. C knew it instantly. Didn't even have to think about it. So maybe that was a little bit projected. But still, I get why that happened. And it leaves us in a 4-4 situation with an unrevealed for both players. Rachi coming in, trapping itself. So obviously not afraid of the Magneton. Nor should it be, as it turns out, because it outspeeds it and finishes it off with the Fire Punch. Baddummy, with the aid of two very relevant critical hits earlier in the game, has regained his lead, now 4-3. But like I said, they both have a hidden poke in the back. And here comes Salamence as the follow-up. We know that it is a physical Mence. We saw DD and Earthquake earlier. Are we going to DD here? Are we threatening to just Earthquake here? Totally depends on what you think Baddummy's got. If Baddummy has Ice Punch, or perhaps a good damage roll with Psychic, maybe you can get him here. I don't think Psychic can kill. So I guess Ice Punch would be the thing that you're playing around. It could be just a DD from C here and try to get there with the Mence. You feel like a donk if you do happen to get like Body Slam Parrot or Ice Punched or what have you, but might not be in a position to play around those things. And indeed, it has exactly what Rick wants it to have. There is Ice Punch. It's faster than the Mence. Mence goes down, and all of a sudden, looking pretty good for Rick. It's been looking good for him the whole time, but now it's starting to look really good for Rick. Is Meta going to get him out of this? Meta is going to be C's last hope here, presumably. Maybe Hera, but yeah, she's going to have to, I think, click agility and just get there. I mean, even then, I don't know that you get through the Rachi. You know there's Fire Punch on the other side. You might need raises. Yeah, that Fire Punch does a lot. Going to have to at least avoid burn. which C does manage to do. Not clear now if she clicks agility or just earthquake again. Probably agility if you have it. Still not sure how you get out of this without raises, though, which you really don't have an opportunity here to meteor mash. I think Baddummy's in good shape, even if it just doesn't burn, which it does. And there's agility. Yeah, it just, what are you going to do? Baddummy just catching everything that he needs to catch this game. This is a tough one for C. I don't know how C can win this game anymore. There's Boom, and Baddummy says that Suicune is the least valuable poke. Fair enough. Heracross versus the world. With the right set, I mean, sub-reversal or sub-Salic or whatever, you Swords Dance, you go down to Salic Berry, there's no sand. I mean, it would not be the craziest thing. There is a world where Heracross can actually win here. This is not over. This is not over. The nickname applicable here. Us versus them. Basically me versus them in this case. This is not over. Wow, especially had it been Swords Dance on the Doug, that's one thing. But Substitute on the Doug, Hera might win this game. Rick has got to be kicking himself right now for not just attacking. This might be a throw. Heracross might win. What a crazy comeback this would be. Heracross might sweep. I mean, it may have to hit Megahorn in order to do so, which is not a guarantee. 85% accurate. These things happen. Things can miss, but this all of a sudden is looking a lot more doable for C. For example, if you miss Megahorn there, you lose. However, Megahorn connects. Wow, C is gonna... How good is she gonna feel if she somehow manages, with the hacks, with the relevant crits, to win this game? Gotta be such a confidence booster if she manages to win this. I mean, Rick clearly got the better end of the nonsense in this game, and she might beat him anyway. That's gotta make her feel like this guy's very beatable. Like, she is more than capable of just beating this guy in normal mons. Rachi might be faster here. And that might be the play for Rick. I mean, yeah, just click Fire Punch and fish for a burn here. Is that where we're going? It's almost certainly a Salic Berry on this Heracross here. Rick with the out now of either burning or critting it, which would end it. This game's not over either way, but tantalizingly close. You can make the argument that C actually, instead of killing the Dugtrio on the previous turn, should have just subbed all the way down. Check the health here. 82 Zapdos. Yeah, I mean, the problem with subbing down, right, is that you need a Rock Slide, Crit, or Flinch, but like maybe you just need that anyway. I wonder if C also fucked this game up. I wonder if C was also kind of throwing here. Like I said, I wonder if she should have subbed all the way down to Salic against the Doug, been at 1 HP, eaten the Salic, killed the Doug then, and now it outspeeds everything. You would still need the luck. You still would need a Rock Slide, Crit, or Flinch against Zapdos, but you kill everything else, so yeah, I don't know. That's not so bad. I think from this position, C wouldn't mind if the game came down to a Crit or a Flinch. Is it just over now, or is it Endure? No, it's just over. That was something. That was anticlimactic. I think that I think C was playing there to get the Fire Punch to knock it into Salic range, I think is what C was going for there. That was a weirdly played late game. Questionable for both of them. Neither one a blatant donk-a-donk by any means. They both had reasons for doing what they did. It just came out very, very awkward because neither one did what the other one thought they were going to do. That was weird. It, like I said, that was certainly a Salic Berry Hera, and I think at that point C was hoping that the Fire Punch would knock it into range. But in hindsight, I think what was supposed to happen is you sub down against the Doug. Yeah, and then it would just come down to the Hera needing a Rock Slide Critter Flinch on the Zapdos because it would outspeed everything. Now, granted, you'd still have to hit the Mega Horn, but all right, you hit the Mega Horn on Doug. You'd have to hit another Mega Horn on Jirachi. So again, these things can miss, but you Mega Horn those down. The Suicune. Yeah, I mean, I guess the last move is Rock Slide, so you'd have to hit a not totally accurate move on that as well. And then you'd have to crit or flinch the Zapdos. So yeah, Rick was going to win that a lot of the time. But I think the best way out of the game, or at least the best chance, was to sub all the way down if you are C. You would still need to hit 4 in a row of Mega Horn and or Rock Slide, which are 85 and 90% accurate respectively. So those are just going to miss sometimes. And then even with hitting all 4 of those, you would still need a critter or flinch on the Zapdos in order to win. So the odds are not great. You still have to get there. Things still have to cooperate. Like I said, if you miss any of those 4 moves, or if you just don't get the crit or the flinch, you lose anyway. But nevertheless, from my view, without having the time to really sit down and go back and go turn by turn and think about it, my initial inclination as the commentator here in a live narration is that the correct play would have been subbing all the way down if you are C. And that's assuming that it is even last move Rock Slide. If it happens to be last move, reversal or something, then I don't know how you beat the Zapdos. Then I think you need a Swords Dance somewhere. Maybe you go down to Swarm range. I don't know if Swarm crit Mega Horn kills the Zapdos from that HP. Maybe, probably. But I've been operating the whole time that it is last move Rock Slide. Interesting game for sure. Game 1, like I said, kind of a stomp. Not a lot to talk about with this one, but Game 2, for sure, one of those ones that you can go back and check out. A lot of interesting plays in that. Could have gone either way. And Game 3, I mean, as it turns out, not surprising when you put it in layman's terms, the player who got really good hacks, or really one-sided hacks, did in fact win the game, go figure, but it was a lot closer than this final board state makes it look like it could have been. As it stands, it is a 2-1 series lead for Baddummy over Super Epic Ampharos, and this next game could be, not a guarantee, but could be the final ever CALLOUS Invitational game. Could be a 3-1 victory for Baddummy to make him the champ. Or C, could send us to a 5th and final game for all the marbles. And there have been multiple minutes in between each game, and I don't blame anybody. Grand Finals. Grand Finals, baby. Rick has really deviated. I mean, one of my biggest criticisms from Rick, and one of the things that I thought was holding him back for years and years, that I just drilled into his head the 2 seasons in a row that I had him on my Mushi League team, you are too predictable. You're playing these passive, samey TSS teams that don't have enough ways to win. The win conditions are spikes and hoping that your opponent is an idiot. That's not viable against good players. That is an antiquated way to play ADV. You know, back in the day when the skill level isn't what it is today, when the resource level isn't what it is today, you could do that. You could just load up a team of spikes and defensive mons, and eventually your opponent will fuck up and you'll win, but that is just not a way to win in 2023. And here we are. See, bringing the heat despite being down 2-1. This is what I'm talking about. Here is a lead Dragonite against a lead T-Tar from Rick, which he has generally refrained from doing for this set. But man, you've got to be nervous about the Dragonite. Its move pool is enormous. T-Wave, Heal Bell, Thunderbolt, Focus Punch, Ice Beam, Dragon Dance, Dragon Claw, Earthquake. Pick a winner. Probably T-Tar just stays in and clicks Rock Slide or Ice Beam here. A good thing it didn't. That might be a CB Brick Break. Wow, yeah, good for Rick for pulling back. A lot of players, probably including me, would have just stayed in there and clicked Rock Slide or Ice Beam and would have lost their T-Tar. That is a CB Brick Break out the gate for SEA. And the hacks continue. Zapdos is an angry bird. All the hacks tonight. Protect looking for Boom. Interesting. Don't know if it was Boom. The full power might have saved C there had she clicked Boom there. This is wild. This could be the last game. Rick could be the champion with a win here. And C seems to like the return Lax over Body Slam. She brought that the previous time. She brought Lax as well. Magneton comes in for the trap. Rick gets a layer of spikes down. Assuming that is the standard Magnet Magneton, that very well may be the only spike that Rick gets down. But depending on the damage roll, maybe it survives for another layer. Nope. One layer is all you're getting. And C takes the early Mons lead in exchange for the 1-0 Spikes lead for Baddummy. T-Tar reappears. Never did get to see anything from it. Don't know if it's physical or special. Fire Blast a threat here. Earthquake a threat here. Turns out to be Fire Blast, so Magneton is no more. And we've got ourselves a 5-5. Suicune comes in. Decent check to T-Tar as a whole. Even better check if it is a special Tar. Suicune is going to handle that just fine. Here comes Bliss. Not surprising that with the tournament victory on the line, Baddummy has opted to keep it simple, keep it Scar and Bliss. And the CMs begin. There's 2 layers already. Crocoon in particular here, for those of you who don't know, that is a Rest Sleep Talk Coon, would actually be pretty threatening for Baddummy based on what he's shown so far. We know that the Coon has max HP based on how much damage the Seismic Toss is doing, so it's a 404 Suicune. The question is whether the last moves are things like Substitute, Ice Beam, Roar, or Sleep Talk, which is probably the best bet if you are C in this position. But this game and a hypothetical 5th game are must-win for C. One more loss and the tournament is over. There is Calm Mind yet again, so this is an obvious rest turn. It would be an amazing play if C were to surf something on the switch, but very likely Baddummy is just going to click Seismic Toss here. It is Zapdos. Surf there would have been amazing, and it would have killed the Zapdos, but rest is definitely the correct and the safest play. The question now is, does it have Sleep Talk? And I think it might. Doesn't go for it there, though. Zapdos Thunderbolting it. Do you have Sleep Talk now? No, it really might not. Maybe it's just a Roarcoon. Thunderbolt again. Gonna surf it down now? Fair enough. All that just to kill the Zapdos after the fact. Now Baddummy simply needs to go to something that outspeeds the Coon, and it will be crisis averted. But as it stands, SEA with the lead in this game, needing to win this game to force Game 5. Uh-oh. I don't know about the hesitation for Rick. Do we not have the Salamence, the Gengar, the Aerodactyl, something that we need? That should be enough, unless it's Special Mence. This gets awkward. HP Grass here? 13%, but 3 combine boosts? I don't know. All right, Brick Break will suffice. Fair enough. It's a trade. This one, not looking like it's going to be a super long game. We've got ourselves a 4-4. Salamence comes in, and the faster Mence, at least according to the sand, belongs to Baddummy. Intimidate potentially relevant, but Brick Break usually indicates mixed Mence. And indeed, it is a Dragon Claw that C does not survive. Getting the first little taste of it. Throwing away the Mence for free there probably means that Baddummy's in pretty good shape here. Is he about to be our champion from the play-ins? Kinda looks like it. If that's the best play that C has into a mixed Mence, to throw her own mixed Mence and get nothing out of it but an Intimidate, kinda looking like Rick might take this. Here comes Mence. It can Brick Break here, but it won't kill because of Intimidate. So Lax is going to have one chance to do something meaningful. We know it doesn't have Body Slam and can't para. Are we representing Boom? Last poke better be something good for C. This is really looking good for Rick. I'm feeling it. I think Rick might be moments away from glory. That's a great Earthquake. C has been consistently good at sniping out her opponents throughout the tour. Same way that she Hydro Pumped the Moltres in Game 2. She just Earthquaked into the Salamence there and connected with the Tar. That was a great play. But will it be enough? I think Rick is really far ahead, especially when the Mence reappears and doesn't have Intimidate anymore. The Mixed Mence seems like a huge issue for C. Your CB Dragonite doesn't want to eat Dragon Claws. Your weakened, paralyzed Lax doesn't want to eat Brick Breaks. It better be a damn good last poke for C, or this is going to be a 3-1 victory for Baddummy, and he'll be our champ from play-ins. C thinking it over. Goes to Dragonite. A good switch, and it is a Brick Break. Dragonite comes in and outspeeds here. Better make a damn good prediction if you're C here. There's not really a fantastic coverage move that hits both T-Tar and Salamence here, so kind of awkward to try to juggle that. May have to just attack what's in front of you, but man, the Mence follow-up is so devastating. And Dragonite does not learn Rock Slide. That's one of its disadvantages over Salamence. CB Rock Slide makes a lot of sense here, but that's not an option. I'd be impressed if C could find a way out of this game. I really would. Never say never, but this is a hard game to win from the position that C's in. Pending, major pending the last poke. Certainly last poke, T-Tar, Jirachi, whatever, something that just sets up and gets there can completely change everything. But here is the obvious follow-up. Baddummy didn't even breathe. He knew exactly what to do. He immediately goes Mence here. And C has not shown an answer for this at all. D-Knight is stuck on Brick Break. Yeah, stays in and dies to Dragon Claw. Crit there is whatever. Even if it had survived, the Brick Break back does not matter. Here's Lax. I don't know. Does that even survive Brick Break here? This might be over. This might be done. The last better be good for C. It survives and it paralyzes. Is that the way this ends? Was that the boom that would have made this interesting? The last really better be good now if you are C. This could be the end. Baddummy 2-1 series lead. If he wins this game, is the CALLOUS Invitational 7 champion and is over $1,750 richer for his efforts. Got here through the play-ins.
C's not conceding, so if whatever it is in the back is just dead to Mence, I think she would have conceded. So maybe she's got a shot here. It looks over. It looks real bad, but never say never until we see the last poke. Like I said, no concessions, so if it were something that blatantly just dies to Mence, if it were Swampert that just dies to HP Grass, even then you don't concede. I mean, make the Salamence show that it is HP Grass. They don't all. Yeah, all I could say for C is that the last better be good. Baddummy here, about to click, presumably Dragon Claw. Brick break, fine. Time for a prayer, she says. What is the last? It's meta. So, agility here, and just get there. If you survive Fire Blast, there you go. There's a chance. There is a chance. Meteor Mash, crit, attack raise, Endor, Rock Slide, flinch. We're not done. Meta has a chance here. Going to need luck immediately. Going to need a crit or a flinch immediately. Does not get it. Fire Blast connects, and that is the tournament. Baddummy from play-ins is the CALLOUS Invitational 7 champion. What a way to go out. History has been made. No play-ins player has ever even made money before. This dude all the way from play-ins to the championship. Super, super well-deserved. Fought more matches than anybody else to get here. Is the champion and is $1,758 richer for his efforts. 100% deserves it. Super happy for him. You couldn't find a nicer guy. Rick is the champ, and he will obviously be picked for SPL this year, as he super duper deserves to be. SEA, let's not dismiss her for one moment. Fantastic run. Over $1,000 for her effort. Swept Rick yesterday. Obviously capable of beating him. Obviously this could have gone a different way. But in this moment, it is Baddummy, a remarkable story from play-ins. He is the CALLOUS Invitational 7 champion. Huge congrats to him. And that's it. The last video is going to be just the usual tournament wrap-up saying thanks to everybody. But that is the end of not only this CALLOUS Invitational, but all the CALLOUS Invitationals. The videos from CI 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all of them are on YouTube. 1 and 2 deleted. Unfortunately, we don't talk about that. But there's a hell of a lot of content for you guys to go back and relive in this moment. Give Rick a lot of love and a lot of credit. It really is an incredible story to get here through play-ins. Congratulations to Rick. And thank you guys so much for making this the biggest and most successful CALLOUS Invitational of all time.